Well, Stefanos, welcome. So happy to have you here today.
Very nice being with you here, Julian. Thank you for having me.
I'm very happy to have you here. So this is going to be fun. You work with men's mental health, and you're running a men's group right now. Tell me a little bit about it.
Exactly. Growing up, I had a lot of struggle with actually getting to understand myself. I had a lot of difficulties, like most of us, with work, with girls, with studying, with everything. And at some point, very, very later, I came to realize that if I had at some point someone to be there and just listen to me, so I can, listen to my problem actually with my own words, that would be very, very helpful. And a lot of the struggles that I had, they would be much easier to get by if I had just someone not to do something for me, but just listen to me. So this is what I'm offering today to men. I'm creating a space where men can come together and just be listened.
Okay, this is good. So I think that you're getting onto a big problem that our generation is really running into. I was working with somebody just the other day, and he said to me, he's in his late 30s, early 40s, and he says, I'm realizing I haven't had a friend, like a real guy friend, since I was a kid. And even then, it was, the childish relationships. So I think that a lot of men in particular, I mean, we could say both genders really deal with this, but especially men, are really struggling with forming friendships and connections in our society. Is this something you're seeing as well? And is this what you're talking about?
Exactly, exactly. We know from research that 1 in 7 men don't have any close friends at all. Zero. I mean, if your car breaks down, you have no one to call to help you. If you get locked out of your apartment, if you have some health issue, or if you have a problem with your wife, you have no one to talk to. And we know that more than half of the men out there have never talked to anyone about how they feel, about their mental health. No, not just feelings, but about maybe this feeling of having the weight of the world on your shoulders. You feel it and you can't express it. You don't have the words and you don't have the people to listen to you. So I'm not sure it's something that's about this generation or about today, but it's a men's problem. It's for sure. It's something that we are struggling a lot with, and it's putting a lot of pressure.
Yes, you're bringing up two very key points here. So on the one hand, we have this isolation where people are very disconnected from each other. And then you bring up a second one, which is the emotional intelligence or emotional maturity, we could call it that. I know this activates a lot of people to say, I'm mature and I'm intelligent, and yet we still don't have the capacity to recognize emotions and to express emotions in healthy, constructive ways. So here we have really two very big disconnects. We have a disconnect from ourselves, meaning that we can't be in touch with our own emotions and then do something with them. And then we're also disconnected from each other. Why is this, do you think? Why are so many people so disconnected today?
We have been noticing since the rise of the internet, of written communication, and I'm part of that generation that I almost grew up with emails. That ever since that we have written communication more and more, DMs, emails, that the empathy levels are decreasing
Yeah.
over the generations. So this is something that is happening even now. And for me, it totally makes sense because when you are speaking to someone else through just messages, you are missing to all the non-verbal parts of communication, which are, how the other person's voice sounds, what's their tone. Are they twitching? Are they having a tick? Is something bothering them? So by having conversations, even across cameras, We are having a conversation now across a camera. It's better, but it's still not the same. I can't reach and touch you if something happens. So by having this disconnected communication and missing all those emotional, verbal, non-verbal cues, and all those, um, hormones and feelings and sensations of touch and smell, we're missing crucial parts of communication, which are not decreasing our capacity to understand logically, but they are decreasing our capacity to understand emotionally. So this is why empathy levels are decreasing.
I had somebody who once said to me that in terms of the connection, the communication that you're talking about, that one of our big barriers is that we're constantly in the presence of each other's absence. So even right now, as you're talking, we're over camera. You and I are interacting with each other. We're engaging. We're sharing ideas, but we're not together. So as you're mentioning, I can't feel the emotion coming off of you. I can pay very close attention to you, which I'm fairly adept at this point, meaning that I can watch for emotions. I can watch your eyes. I can watch your facial expressions. I can listen very closely to your enunciations and the voice mannerisms that you have. But there's still a great deal of the interaction that's completely missing here. And I think this is where you're getting at with the terms of communication that we have. When we're over the internet, again, I can see so much here, but I'm still missing so much. And then if we move that to an email or to a text message or to a 150 character tweet or social media post, I have to create so much mentally to fill in all these gaps that are missing. So I read your text if you send me a text, and I might think, oh, he's really angry with me right now. I come up with this mental narrative of what's really happening because so much is missing. And then there's this internal response, and then I'm more likely to disconnect. So there's these tiers of forms of communication that we have. And of course, being in person and attuned to each other is like the best way to have it. But right now, the vast majority is of our communication, the vast majority of our communication is so degraded to these tiny little text messages. And then the mental inference of what do I think this person's feeling? What do I think they're saying? And I don't really know.
Yeah, as you were speaking, I thought of Zoom fatigue. It's a
Yeah.
term that we came up in COVID,
Hmm.
and the easy way to express it is that okay, I can't sit and talk all day in a computer with a camera. But if you really think about it, it's that it's very mentally heavy for our brain to interpret what the other person is saying when we can't see him at all, because
Yeah.
a lot of meetings are happening with cameras off, or even when I'm seeing him, it's very hard to understand him because he's not in the same room. There's a lot that we are missing from this part of the communication. And okay, we need technology and we want it, and it's great that we have it and we can have this conversation right now, because in normal terms we will never have met actually.
Right.
So it's a grace, it's an opportunity that we have and that we can have this. So these are the benefits. On the other hand, we need to keep in mind that meeting people up close is even better, and make time in our schedule, in our week, in our work schedule, or in our personal schedule to meet people when we can, because
That's
it
right.
will solve and help a lot the next steps and the next days. It's good for the communication, it's good for relationships, and it's good for us as well, about how we feel, about how we feel as humans.
Right. Yes. I mean, right now, I'm in Florida in the United States and you're in Athens, Greece, right?
Hmm, hmm.
So this is incredible that through this technological platform that you and I are able to have a connection. We're talking to each other, we're interacting with each other, we're sharing ideas, we're getting to know each other. And without this platform, we wouldn't have been able to do that. I mean, unless one of us traveled over there and then stumbled upon each other by chance. And yes, still talking, going out, interacting with people is so important because we can just get locked into the screens and just stay right here in this room where, I mean, I'm alone in this room. Are you alone in your room? Yeah.
I'm alone in my room. Yeah.
Yeah. And we get like almost like we're in jail cells in a way. So that begs the question. I think a lot of people will relate with that. I think a lot of people are there where they say, okay, I'm here. I'm in my house. I'm in my apartment. I'm in this room. I need to get out. But then there's this big gap, this big barrier of how do I do that? Where do I go? What do I do? How can I actually get out and start talking to people? There's so much mental narrative, so much fear, anxiety, tension, panic, nervousness about, oh gosh, what if they don't like me? What if they reject me? What if somebody attacks me? What if I go out there and I try and talk to people and there's nobody there? So, how do you help people who are realizing they're isolated, that they're disconnected, and they want to start going out and connecting with people?
Mm. The first, I think, thing that we need to realize, that someone needs to realize on his own, is that we are social creatures and it's natural for us to socialize and speak to other people. So it's not something that you need some magic kind of skills or something that you need to deeply learn in order to do it, because we normally do it. If you go to the grocery store, most probably you will speak to the cashier. If you go to your day job, most probably you will speak to someone. And even if you do it like watching other people, you see that they do socialize a lot and people do speak a lot to each other, and it's something that is happening natural. So if you take that veil of social stress that we might have, then it will be easy. It will be easy. So the first thing to realize is this is how we are built: to socialize, to make friends, to make relationships. And then it depends on the person, I guess. For someone who has a lot of social stress, maybe he needs to unpack it a bit, to realize what is going on. Having some breathing exercises is great. Having smaller interactions is great, and having small steps. Back in the days when I was learning how to date, because this is also something that I didn't know at some point. The first exercise was to go outside and say good morning to a couple of people, old people, young people, it doesn't matter. Just start and socialize a bit and move your social muscle, because it's a muscle. And we don't really work with that. And while we are made to socialize, and the first thing that I will do when you leave me alone will be to open Instagram or Facebook and socialize with people, see what other people are doing. This is not really helping, uh, but going out and doing something that you like, uh, going to the gym, take a dance class or something, then it's easier to socialize within that environment. So the first thing is to go slow. The second thing is start doing things that you like, that are other people involved as well. So maybe modeling little cars is not the most social hobby, but going for hiking is a pretty social hobby. You will be there for many hours with other people. More or less, you will have to socialize because someone will come to you, even if you don't take this first step. We don't give space to others and to ourselves to have this experience. So this is the third part. You need to give some space to yourself and put yourself in a position that you will be able to have those experiences. Because most of the time we're running away from this. And of course, someone who has social anxiety will run away from these situations because they're uncomfortable. We don't want to do it. But okay, when you are ready to make some changes in your life, maybe you want to put a bit of stress, and a bit of stress can be constructual and helpful.
Mhm. Yeah, we got a couple good things here. So the first thing that you're talking about is that we are programmed for connection. Of course, um, when we're born into this world, we can't survive without it. We're completely dependent on connection. So that just doesn't just go away and then we can, live in our little isolated rooms. No, that's still a part of who we are. And when we're in this isolation, we try to get that connection through a way that is actually disconnecting us, social media, for instance. So again, we're getting this mental version of connection that is still isolated. And then when we see something that we like or we post something and we get likes on it, we get an emotional response that is resembling the actual connection, but it's not the real thing. So no matter how much we interact on social media, we're still isolated and we still feel that this is empty. So this is crucial, I think, for people to see, right? Is that we're programmed for connection and we're trying to get connection through ways that are not actually providing us connection. So this is the first thing that we really have to recognize.
Exactly, yeah. I was watching a show. It's a show about dating, blind dating,
Hmm.
on television, on a reality show. And there was this one guy who is an influencer here in Greece. He has millions of followers. So, and he went out for a blind date with a lady, and it was totally awkward. He didn't know how to act at all. He didn't
Hmm.
know how to speak to the girl or to the waiter or to the host. And in the end, they, trust him, and they told that, okay, this guy, he never got out of his house.
Yeah.
Maybe he has millions of followers, but he can't relate and he doesn't know how to act. So this
Yeah.
is the easy way to say it. And it is happening a lot to us. We don't know
Hmm.
how to act. We are telling things on the internet that we wouldn't tell in the real life because someone will punch you, You can't tell such things in the real life. And we tend to forget how to communicate. So when we go out, we don't know how to act. So it's
Right.
uncomfortable, and it's a spiral. You are doing less of the things that you don't like and you are not comfortable. And this creates more and more problems because you are more and more disconnected. And we're getting back to where we started with loneliness and having no friends
Yeah.
because you don't know how to, not how to interact, but how to connect with
It's
people.
it's almost like we don't even know what it looks like anymore. That there's this mistaking of what it looks like, and that social media influencers a good example is. I mean, we saw it a lot with AI really coming out. Is the when people are really in their developmental stages of learning how to communicate professionally. So they're going into college or they're coming out of college, and if they've used AI for all of their communications, they look really good on paper. But then when you start talking to them, you realize, like, whoa, there's a big gap here between you on paper, which is really the AI, versus the person who's sitting here right now. It's that social media influencer that you were talking about. There's a big gap between what you look like on social media and actually being able to interact with people. And a lot of the times we'll see these things on the internet that look really good and they get all of these likes and views, and maybe that's real people liking them, or maybe they're bots. But we're modeling ourselves in lots of ways after that. And that is very far removed from the actual human connection. So this is another point that you brought up right here is when we start to realize that we're disconnected, and we realize that we don't have the skills, the tools to actually engage and connect with people, is this is very painful and it's very uncomfortable. We have to learn fundamental basic skills that we're born into this world knowing how to do, which is to connect. And we've lost it. So now we have to relearn how to do it as adults. And so there's so much discomfort here and stress and tension. And so most of the times we want to avoid that. But life is full of discomfort. Life is full of stress and pain and loss and hardship. So in order to come out of this isolation, we have to get comfortable with going into uncomfortable circumstances. Learning this skill and this tool is essential in that sense for going out and interacting and connecting with people.
Mm. The good news here is that it doesn't take a lot of time to relearn or to remember actually the skills
Yeah.
in order to socialize. And there is a lot of discomfort, and most of us prefer to stay in the comfort zone. But as a friend was saying, there's nothing comfortable in the comfort zone, actually. It's the opposite. It's this discomfort zone that I'm feeling bad every day about myself. And just taking a couple of steps and in our context, going out and speaking to a couple of people and having some interactions, this might be minorly discomfortable compared to how I feel every day. So, but it's the pain that I don't know. It's the novelty that we are afraid of, because the discomfort that I'm feeling every day, I got used to that. No, if I didn't have a limp, I would get used to that as well. So we get used to having amputated feelings or amputated communications. And but the good news again is that it's pretty straightforward and easy to go back and learn again how to socialize with people. And if I make a small connection with AI, one thing that it doesn't help us to do is it doesn't help us being authentic,
Right.
because it has its own voice and it tracks things perfectly. So, we prefer how ChatGPT or Gemini wrote something because it looks better than the way that I could do it. But this is not my voice. And when I'm sending a survey or something to an employee, I want to look perfect because, I want to get hired. But when I'm speaking to a friend, I don't want to look perfect, because people connect through imperfections and through our rough edges, not around our smooth surfaces.
Right.
And a big reason we can't make friends is because we have learned to hide vulnerability. We have learned to hide our rough edges. We have learned to be super agreeable with other people, which seems like it's helping the relationship, and it might do in the first 5 minutes, but in the long run, and it doesn't help at all, because people can't relate to something that they can't really see, they can't really touch, they can't really understand. And
Mhm.
everyone knows that when you see something that's perfect, it's not real.
Yeah, this is another form of suppression or masking where we sacrifice or suppress who we truly are. And then we put on this mask, this very agreeable, pleasing mask in lots of ways in order to try to maintain our connections. So we have to deal with pain regardless. We have to deal with the pain of the isolation and the pain of constantly suppressing ourselves and masking ourselves and trying to sacrifice ourselves to please other people. That's painful. We might be used to it, just like you said. It might be something that we're familiar with, and it's still very painful. And that's why we're always feeling that desire. That's a signal that's telling us something's not right. We need to step out of this. And if we step out of it, well, then we have to deal with the pain or the discomfort of the unknown, of trying to recover old skills of connection, of having to be vulnerable and interact with somebody like this who could say, what you're saying is downright stupid and I don't like you. Goodbye. That's always, I could be rejected. I could be abandoned. And that's very scary. And that's what we're trying to avoid by suppressing ourselves and masking ourselves. So, regardless of whether we stay in this pattern of isolation and suppression, sacrificing and masking ourselves, or we step outside of it and we try to transcend that and connect with other people, both of them are going to be uncomfortable. Both of them are going to be painful. Both of them have the capacity to hurt us. We have to make a choice. And I think this right here is the foundation of um, being able to navigate life, whether it's talking about connections or deciding who we are and figuring out what kind of life we want to live. Is we've got to make this choice, these types of choices. Do we want the pain of staying here? Or are we going to listen to that pain and say, let's step outside of it and try something new? So it's quite a dichotomy. They're both going to be hurting, but as you mentioned, one of them is going to continuously hurt indefinitely. And the other one, it might be uncomfortable at first, and it might not be. And it might end pretty quickly, and it might transform into something wonderful.
Exactly. No, life is discomfortable, where we are feeling constantly hungry or full, of tired, of or energetic, or or hot or cold. It's always a bit. There's a bit discomfort all the time. So this is life. Life is feeling a bit discomfortable and doing something to change that. And no matter what is going on with our lives, we will always have to work with something. So we get to be intentional here and choose with which problems we want to work with. Our time is we have certain amounts of time in our life. We can't fight every fight. We get to pick our fights, and you get to be intentional about the results that you want to have in your life. So why not pick the good problems? And a good problem is, okay, how can I be happier? How can I meet and have more friends? How can I have more support instead of having the issues of, okay, how can I be less lonely? How can I be feeling less uncomfortable when I'm with others? Let's stay home. You know, both both of these things are problems, but the way that you are, or actually the problem that you choose to work with, will lead you down a different path. So
Right.
this is how we navigate.
Yes. Now, what we're talking about is the isolation, the pain of this discomfort. It's a signal from life. It's telling us that the life that we're living or the way that we're living life, it's not working. And so we're going to keep feeling this pain and we're going to keep suffering until we make that change. And so then when people answer that call from life, and they start stepping up and opening up to life, well, they say, okay, well, what can I do? How can I go out and find happiness? And one of my teachers would always say, follow your bliss. So bliss is this wonderful feeling that we get. It's that zest. It's that exuberance. It's that big yes, this is it in life. And if we can find that, and it comes to us all the time, everybody I think has had at least some amounts of it throughout their life. I got one of them when I was like 8 years old and I was interacting with horses. And that was just the yes. And it just stuck with me for the rest of my life. Now I'm training in horsemanship. I ride horses like multiple times a week, and I'm really building a relationship with them. And I feel that yes, that massive zest and exuberance of life every time I'm interacting with these horses, every time I'm riding with them and I'm out in nature. So this is a very exciting thing when we can say, okay, I have this pain. I'm going to listen to it. It's scary. It's challenging. I'm going to listen to it. It's telling me step outside of my isolation, go interact with life. Now, where do I feel alive at? What do I really want to do? And that's what you were talking about earlier is let's find something that I really like to do that I can go and connect with people over too, and go and, ideally develop some skills or tools or start to stack up some experiences that are nice. And through this, I can really transcend my isolation.
Mm. I love the idea of the bliss, and I hope that I will be able to listen to my bliss moments earlier in my life.
Mhm.
because in my case, at least, it took a bit of training to
Yeah.
really listen to this gut feeling, to really listen to what I like, because I had learned to go by the book, play, by the rules, by what was supposed to be right by other people wants, actually. So, there's a word in therapy about men, it's alexithymia, and it means that you feel no emotions at all, no good, bad, negative, no zero emotions at all. And it's something that happens because we never learn how to train them or how to listen to them. So, you're asking your body, okay, how are you doing today, man? And she's like, okay, I'm good, I'm good. Okay, this tells us nothing, actually. Maybe, something really bad happened in his family. And she's like, okay, I'm good. Because this is how we learn to process things. We don't know how to express what is going on. So, like you did when you were 8, hearing this aha moment, this bliss moment, it's very crucial to stay there and ponder a bit and see what is this telling about you. And we don't really have to fully understand these moments logically and make sense out of this. Because if something feels good, then it's good. We stay there. And hopefully it's not dangerous, for our lives.
Yeah. Yes, this is right here, this idea that I don't feel anything. This is very common. This is that disconnect that we were talking about, excuse me, that we were talking about earlier, which is we identified two of them. I'm disconnected from myself, and therefore, since I can't be present with what I feel, my intuitions, my gut feelings, my emotions, I can't be with those. Well, then how could I ever be with somebody else when I can't be with myself?
Mm.
And so, really learning to reconnect with those feelings, and it's not just the bad feelings, is crucial because if we suppress our bad feelings, well, then we disconnect and we suppress all the good feelings too. And so, the bliss, the yeses from life are also disconnected. I find that this is an adaptation right here, this disconnect, that this actually served a purpose at some point, that there was great wisdom here. Usually during a time where I was feeling big emotions, such as fear, anger, sadness, and it threatened my connections, usually early in life. So if I was angry because my parents were negligent and then I express that anger, then I get punished and then I get more disconnected. And so I learn very quickly that anger needs to be suppressed. Or if I'm getting fear sense from my parents and I'm also programmed for connection with my parents, I learn that that fear sense, that gut intuition that's telling me they're dangerous, it can't be trusted. So I stuff it down and I try and disconnect from it. And then over the years, it's gotten so far away. However, it's still inside of us. And so, yes, if we want to reconnect with our bliss, we have to reconnect with all of our emotions. And so, what you brought up here is a very big barrier, a blockage, so to speak, that keeps us from connecting not just with each other, but from connecting with life. So if we want to start to reconnect, we have to really look at this blockage that's here, which is the suppression, the disconnect from our emotions, our intuition, and we got to start to reconnect with those areas. So if we can reconnect with ourselves, then we can really start to open up and reconnect with each other and with life and the world around us.
Mm. Yeah, it takes a bit of training. No, I might get a bit too technical here,
Mhm.
uh, but when we are speaking about connecting with ourselves and connecting with others, they're both parts of being emotionally intelligent.
Right.
There and there is the self-insight of understanding myself, and then there is the social awareness of understanding others and being able to motivate others or connect with others. So there are both parts of the same toolset that we're looking to build. And we tend, like we said, to run away from negative feelings because they don't feel nice. And we tend to suppress as well the good feelings because we don't know how to handle this. So the first way that someone wants to start training this emotional muscle is staying a bit more with his emotions, no matter what is going on at that point. So every time you are feeling a bit of a discomfort or a bit of happiness and comfort, you're going to stay there a bit and maybe note your what is going on with your body, because a big part of our emotions habits our body, and notice what is going on with your thinking pattern, etc. And this is not to solve a problem or to get into a discussion with your thoughts and get lost there or and overthink things, but it's about to start understanding what is going on, maybe even naming what's going on at that point. I'm thinking, or I'm overthinking, or I'm pissed because something happened, or this was good. Yeah, I'm feeling good. Start naming those things, because, like we said, when you have never no clue of how you were feeling, then you need to start somewhere. So maybe even naming things like, okay, this is good, this is bad, this is neutral, this feels neutral. Maybe starting there, this is a very good way to start training those muscles. And this, on a second level, will start informing your logical decisions as well. Because, there are, there are no logical decisions. Every decision has an emotional part in that, and if we learn to tap into that emotional intelligence, then we will take better, faster decisions.
Right. Yeah, we're talking about being present here. Building one awareness, the ability to recognize and identify things, and then the capacity to be with it. Yeah, again, if we want to be with somebody else, we can't be with them if we can't be with ourselves, first of all. So this is crucial, yeah, to be able to, can I be present when I'm talking with you and you're saying something that's really incredible? Am I thinking about what I'm going to say next? Or am I actually able to listen to what you're saying? And can I be with you and can I see your experience? Well, if I want to be with you first, I've got to be able to recognize, oh, I'm thinking. And I'm thinking because I want to be important, because I'm scared that I'm going to be seen as somebody who's, incompetent or stupid or just not good enough. Where does that come from in my life? Oh, yeah, that's familiar. Yeah, I know where that comes from. There's my childhood all over again. So now I can really work with these emotions. This is quite an exercise to build. I'm curious, how do you practice presence and being with your emotions and your internal state? I'll just call it the thinking process, the beliefs, the perceptions, the emotions. What's your practice like in terms of being with this and strengthening those muscles?
Hmm. There's a palette of different exercise that I'm doing at different times. So there's not one solution to that. For one part, I do journal a lot, and I do journal intentionally to have maybe a small conversation with myself. So, okay, what went well? What went bad? How do I feel about it? Is this true? Is this accurate? Is another way to look at things? So I'm doing a lot of journaling exercises. Uh, some of them are based on CBT therapy. So it's ways to get different perspectives through writing, and it's very similar to having a good conversation with yourself. So this is one thing. Another way that I practice uh, officially being present is meditating, and there are a lot of different ways to meditate, and some of them are focusing on your breath, or in sounds, or in thoughts, or in motions. So by going through different styles of meditation, you can learn to be present at things that are happening, and they help you a lot be aware when you are having the next conversation with an actual person. And then there are other practices as well, which have to do, with feeling good. And, doing sports and exercising for me is something that releases a lot of stress from my body. So there is a lot of stress that builds up in all of us. And we need movement, we need exercise. And this solves a lot of problems down the road. Or even nutrition. I have seen in others and I have noticed in myself that based on what I eat or how I eat for a couple of days, it's pretty easy to see that when you are eating a lot of junk food or when you are drinking a lot of alcohol. But even when you are not in this cycle, you can see differences in your mood and in your focus with your eating. So this is something that over the years I came to realize that I need to take care of even my glucose in my blood. And then there are even more diverse ways to practice authenticity. Some years ago, I took some acting classes, and they really, really helped me build my emotional palette. At that point, I realized that I never cried as an adult, and I was in a class with other adults, and when the teacher told us to cry, to think of something to cry, everyone could do it, and I couldn't because I didn't know how to cry. And I realized that I didn't know how to express anger. I I could feel angry, but I couldn't express it. I couldn't burst because I didn't know how to do that. So I was really practicing those skills. So I'm mentioning this case because there are different things we can do in our lives. Some of them doesn't look like they have to do with mental health, but they have to do a lot with that. So painting or arts or building things, they have to do with being present actually. When you are painting something, you are present, you are focusing there. This helps you train your focus. Taking pictures, you learn to see other people.
Yeah. Being present and learning how to express yourself. It's crucial. I think so many people, I can certainly relate with not knowing how to recognize emotions or express emotions. And I was working in dementia care at one point in a hospital, and I was brought onto this hospital unit specifically for my experience in working with dementia and my training in mental health. And for the most part, I was just taking care of dementia patients. And they have no concept of a coherent reality that everybody agrees on. So one person thinks that the hospital unit's a ship and that I'm the captain. And so just like you're taking acting classes, this was constant improv for me. Because when the doctors would come in and they'd say, "No, you're not on a ship, you're in a hospital unit." And they're like pointing at them and they're really nasty. Then you get this massive outburst and the person gets in a really nasty mood, and it's very difficult to work with them after that. So yeah, I'm the captain of the ship. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And I would walk them in circles around the unit and tell them, introduce them to the first mate and to the cleaning crew and the food crew. And it was just constant improvisation. And I had to be very emotionally flexible in that situation, as I said, because you can set these people over the edge so quickly and then it'll ruin everybody's day. So these are really fun exercises to really figure out where do I keep emotions? What do these emotions look like? And what are some healthy, constructive ways to communicate them and to express them? Because those people, they would do things that would really push the boundaries, and you've got to be able to set boundaries that are very clear, very firm, express how you're feeling and what you're experiencing, also while taking into consideration who you're dealing with. So yeah, these are excellent exercises. I'm curious, Stefanos, What are some things that you're doing? You're mentioning some things like acting and art, and I can really hear like a vibrancy in your voice when you're talking about it. What are some things that you're doing right now, as we were talking about men's group and transcending isolation and getting out and engaging with people? Where are the areas in your life right now where you feel most alive?
Lately I have picked up free diving and spearfishing.
Free diving and
That,
spearfishing. Yes.
yeah.
Where are you diving at?
There are a lot of places around Attica or around my home city. It's in Peloponnesus. It's 2 hours drive from here. There are a lot
Uh-huh.
of places with very beautiful water,
Yes.
very beautiful seabed,
Uh-huh.
and v- the. Is superb. Uh,
Yes.
Yesterday I got to see a sea turtle in its
Mhm.
natural habitat,
Right.
and take some pictures of it. So it's magic. And
Yes.
as far as I remember, I always liked animals, even as a
Uh-huh.
child. And being close to nature and to water. And
Mhm.
for some reason, for me, water is what makes me tick, right?
Yes.
It's super important. So this is something that gives me a lot of pleasure in
Yes.
my weekends and in my life, and something that I'm always looking forward to doing.
Yes.
So it helps me, get by from day to day, and helps me orient to myself towards something that I like to do. And
Yes.
it gives me also some values, because when you get into this field, you learn to enjoy nature and to not pollute, try to uh, protect
Mhm.
the life that is there, and learn places, introduce others to this. So it's something that it helps a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible, Stefanos, because when I moved to Florida in November, I moved here to learn how to free dive primarily. So I go swimming and free diving very frequently as well. So here, this is really interesting because we're talking about how we can start to do things like that and we build connection. Yes. I doubt you can see it, but I have half of my arm dedicated to the ocean too. And here here's just a great example. Funny how that came up of, yeah, we're both doing the same thing. And this is a vital point for me too. And it's
Yeah.
so interesting because when you're in the water, like you're interacting, you're communicating with people and all the nature around you, but it's in a completely different way. You're not speaking, right? You're not saying words to the turtles or to the fish or to the people who are around you, yet you communicate so much. And in the water, you can almost feel and see it radiating off of your body. Do you see
Mm.
that too?
Yeah, yeah. No, I love the face that people have after their first dive, the first time they dive.
Yeah.
They go out and they are super smooth, super relaxed,
Hmm.
radiant in their faces. And it's funny because this conversation that we're having goes back to how people connect, because for the first part we had some small talk, let's say, and then we found a common interest that we didn't know from the
Hmm.
start. So this is something that people do in general. You go out with speak with someone, and after some time you might find some common interests. And this happens a lot to me with spearfishing, because there are a lot of people who are spearfishing in Greece and you don't know when you first meet them. But
Hmm.
if you talk a bit and you share a bit about yourself, someone will be like, "Oh, I do that as well." Yeah, and you strike an interesting conversation.
That's
So
right.
this is the the first part, and the second part is that in the water you all have a body with you. You don't speak, as you said, or you communicate not that much verbally, at least, but you are feeling very strong emotions toward each other. At least after some time that you have been diving together, because you trust the other person with your life. Actually, he's
Yeah,
there for you and you are there for him. So we don't need that many words to make friends.
that's right. Yeah, I mean, there's this really interesting research that was done. I looked into this a lot when I was in undergraduate, and it was about why, what do we have to do to end war? Right? What is the big, that was the question. And this guy's looking at soldiers who would go into really bad battlefield areas I mean, having firefights on a daily basis, high stress, very traumatic areas. And then they come out and they go back into society and they're terribly depressed and they want to actually go back into war.
Mm.
And so he got very curious and he said, why is that? Because if you want to end war, you have to get rid of the desire to go to war. And what this researcher found was that the reason why these people were wanting to go back into the battlefield was because when you're there, you have a brotherhood, you have a community. You might not like those people, but you trust those people. And you have their back because in war, you save yourself by saving other people. So you're protecting them and they're protecting you. And then you go back to society and you're completely anonymous. You're around millions of people, but you don't know anybody. You're totally isolated. So this connection is crucial. And here we're talking about another way when you're free diving with somebody and there's currents and there's boats and there's sharks and there's all sorts of things that could end your life in an instant. You have this buddy with you who is looking out for you because you're looking out for him. And there's this really deep, intimate connection where your life is in danger. Free diving is not a safe sport. It is a safe activity. It can be very dangerous. You of course can do it safely, but there's threats. And here you're engaging with life in a very dangerous, exhilarating way and making connections with life, with nature, and with others as well. And you can talk about it afterwards. So I think we really just struck onto something very important here.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You are making connections, you are learning things, you are training mentally, even your intuition, and you learn to be present. And this is
Mhm.
actually how I got into freediving in the first place, because I took up meditation some years earlier, and a friend of mine who was freediving told me, okay, this relaxation part of freediving is very similar to the feeling that you get from meditation. So this is how I got into that.
Right.
And this way you see where each step takes you down another step in your life. And this is how we learn and grow, by experimenting. It will be nice to shoot the ball and get to the I don't know the the word in English about the in basketball how shot the ball and go in the basket. I don't
Hmm.
know how we call it, but you will take some tries. It will take a bit of experimenting. You will
Hmm.
try different things until you get your bliss moment or
Yeah.
your next bigger bliss moment, like you were saying.
Right. And it's interesting how they're usually intertwined too. So we're talking about something that can be not a lot of fun for people, learning how to meditate, learning how to be present with your emotions, learning how to pay close attention to all the painful areas in your life and to process those so that way you can make room for all of the joyful things. And then here, when you get in the water, if you panic underwater, you're not going to do very well. You're not going to have a good time. You're going to put yourself in terrible danger. And if you are unable to be very present with your body and you're thinking, if you're thinking when you're under there, I don't know, you tell me, I run out of breath so much faster than when my thoughts are going. So I have to be able to say, not right now. And if my body's tense or I'm activated emotionally, my breath doesn't work. I can hold my breath for maybe 30 seconds tops. But if I can really relax, if I can be present with my body and I can get into that meditative focus state where I can really relax into the water and I can flow into the currents and drift around and move. Well, it's almost like trying to, as cliche as it sounds, becoming one with the environment. And then my body can go so much further and the experiences that I can have open up so much more. So that practicing that we start off early on with, okay, what am I feeling right now? What's going on with my internal state? Then opens up to all these wonderful things that we can do in life afterwards.
Hmm. My coach, he's a world class athlete. She did a dive for 4 minutes, 120 meters, so superb dives. When I was talking to him and we were discussing about what he thinks when he dives, he was describing something that was actually a body scan meditation. He was paying attention to his body. He was learning
Yeah.
to be present, and he
Hmm.
learned it through experimentation, actually, because no one taught him at that point to reground and focus himself back to the present moment.
Right.
And if I go a bit further, when I was learning about coaching in general, I got to a book. It's pretty famous, The Inner Game of Tennis.
Hmm.
And again, for athletes, the way to learn and be a better athlete is to learn to focus more on the moment and in what you are doing, what your body is doing. Not
Right.
overthink it, not analyze it, but teach your body to do it and be present. And over time, you will get better. So this is a crucial skill. It works a lot in sports, it works in business, it works in life.
Right.
Being present and being aware of what's going on right now.
Yeah. Precisely. Um, there's this famous samurai. His name is Miyamoto Musashi. One of the most renowned ones, or shrines built after him. And one time somebody asked him, he had like almost 200 duels, never lost. And somebody asked him, when you're fighting, what are you thinking about? And he responds with, if I was thinking, I'd be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The art here, I mean, a lot like Bruce Lee talks about, the art is to express yourself authentically, even in the midst of something like a violent motion. And so, yes, being able to get in the water in a dangerous environment where you can die, and then to be able to express yourself authentically, to remain calm and to be present with what you're going through, and then to make choices and actions. I feel so alive in those situations. It's
Mm,
everything that I've gone through up until that point is worth it just to be in the water for those moments.
mm. And this is what it means to have a flow experience, right?
Right.
Being in a bit, being a bit in a bit of stress in something that's difficult enough to give you a bit of stress, and being really focused. And this is when time passes like it flies, and people experience flow moments in the water, like us, or during sports, or during running, or
Right.
during working, building code, or writing emails, or giving a talk. So we all experience those flow moments, and they have to do, with being authentic, like you said, with being present, and with doing something that you love.
Right. Yeah, those are the key things right there. And when we're suffering, again, those are just signals telling us we're not on the right path. We're missing it. We're missing the point. Life is passing us by right now. And that depression, that anxiety, that nervousness, all of that is like a thorn in your side, constantly pricking you, telling you, you deserve better. You can go and find it. And honestly, for me, the path, as difficult as it was, all the times I fell down, all the failures and hardships that I endured, all of that was worth it to find these bliss moments and then to be able to go deeper with them because I keep finding new levels. Like, there is something so beautiful and enchanting when you're in the water and a turtle swims right up to you and you have that moment where you're making eye contact and you're looking at each other, and I'm not putting out any threats, no threatening emotions, no threatening intentions, no threatening thoughts, just being present with them. And this turtle's sitting there just looking at me too, and we just have that moment, whether it's 30 seconds or a minute, and then we go our separate ways. And then maybe a week later, I'm in the same spot. And then you see the turtle come out again and he gives you the little, oh, hey, it's you again. And then you start to build this relationship. It's so magical. Not an experience you can buy, not an experience that you can just have just like that. You have to build to it. You have to exercise yourself to get to it. And it is so worth it.
Mm. Nowadays I'm having more and more examples in my mind that comes from spearfishing actually, and a lot of life lessons that can be analogies to different parts in our lives that are coming from the sport that I love. And one of these has to do about being consistent. So, I have been diving for free diving for some years. So my technique was good in diving at least. And then I took up a spear gun and started trying, and I had zero successes. And over time, I started becoming a bit better and a bit better and a bit better. And at some point, I started getting some prey consistently, and this happened because I was there pretty much every week. I
Mhm.
was going again and again, and I was repeating the exercise. And when I realized that, okay, if I want to get better, I have to do it more, I realized that it's the same with social interactions. For example,
That's right.
if I want to meet more people, I should be consistent in going out and meeting people, and maybe I won't get some prey every time. I won't meet someone every time. But if you extrapolate it over a year, then you will have some successes.
Yes,
And most of the time, what we need is not to have 100% success, is have 5 or 10% success
that's right.
when it comes to, to our actual work or to meeting people. We don't need to be friends with everyone. We don't need to have everyone as a client. We need a couple of friends, a couple of clients, maybe one wife, maybe a couple of children. We don't need everyone to be aboard. We don't need to have a good ratio success over failure. No chance. We need a couple of successes and plenty of failures to get to those successes that are worth it.
Yeah. I mean, even the notion of success and failure is a judgment. It's an assessment of a situation. And when we constantly judge or assess our situations or ourselves, it almost always leads to suffering. And that's not to say that we can't be driven and moving towards a goal. But when I first started freediving, just learning how to equalize was very difficult because I have a lot of congestion. I've broken my nose several times. I mean, I can bend this thing all the way over like this to where, it's hard to breathe through my nose in lots of ways. And so just learning how to equalize was painful. And I would get, 10 meters in, and then my eyes are throbbing, and I got this big pain in the back of my sinuses right here. And I get out and I blow my nose and I'm bleeding. And, that could be trumped up as a major failure. But I never once looked at it like that. I think if I would have looked at it as I failed, then I would have been discouraged. But instead, just like you're talking about, I might not have gotten my prey. I might not have gotten the win that I wanted, but I learned something very important and I made steps towards progressing towards a goal that I was looking for. And
Mm.
it's the same thing with going out and interacting with people. You might go out and say hello to somebody, and you might say something that just comes out, and then you think afterwards, oh, that was so stupid, and they didn't like it, and they walked away, or they scoffed at me. Maybe that was because of what you said, or maybe that person was just in a bad mood. Maybe that person was having a bad day themselves. Maybe it had nothing to do with you. But if we are looking at it constantly as I failed, I'm not doing this right. Yeah, that's very hard to work with.
Mm. Exactly. We tend to judge things as success and failure, and it's very unfair actually, because most of the times it's not about succeeding or failing, but it's about trying and learning something. Most of the times that you are going out to the water, you are seeing things that you didn't know before, so you
Right.
were not prepared for. So it's a learning experience, and it's the same when you are meeting new people. If
Yeah.
this is something that you are trying to do, you are meeting people that you didn't know before. there are a lot of unknowns that you can't know. Someone might had a bad day before, so he won't be in the mood. But this is not something that you can judge before meeting him.
Right.
And maybe by doing it again and again, you will build some intuition. You will be better able to read facial expressions or body language or energy or whatever.
Right.
But this is something that takes a lot of learning. So it's not actually about succeeding or failing. It's more about enjoying what you do. And some days will be good, some days won't be that good. But in the long run, what's important is to keep enjoying yourself through this process. Because if you want to get somewhere, you'll have a lot of this process. So it's crucial to enjoy the process as well. Because this
Yes.
will sustain you, not the goal, but the process will sustain you.
Again, getting comfortable with discomfort. Um, there's so much in life to experience. There's so much out there. I mean, I swim in a river. That's my area over here. And I always see something new. I always see a new group of fish that I didn't see before, or a new group of turtles, or I come up and there's a gator 10 feet away from me, and I've been swimming next to him for 5 minutes and I didn't see him. And I was like, wow, I was not aware of that. And so constantly putting yourself in new situations, opening up to new areas of life, I think is very rewarding for me. It's sure better, in my opinion, than sitting at home scrolling on my phone, looking at the same old posts on Instagram and, seeing if I can get a response out of somebody or something that I commented on. That to me just doesn't really carry much weight in terms of experience. But getting out and engaging with life, even in those difficult areas, I think is one of the most rewarding things we can do.
Yeah. It's easier to get some likes on Instagram or Facebook, but it's more rewarding to swim with a turtle or with a dolphin.
That's right. Yeah. And to build the skills and the capacity to do so. I mean, maybe some people are born right into it, just natural swimmers, and they can go right into the water and just absolutely do it. But I don't know about you, but it was pretty challenging to learn how to hold my breath and to learn how to deal with the pressure and the currents and all the things that are going on out there. And it's so worth it.
Mm. So what is your big life lesson that you take from diving and swimming?
I have to be very aware of my emotional state.
Mm.
Again, in the water, you have this medium around you, and I can almost see and feel the emotions radiating out. And so the river might be very narrow at points, and there's a lot of tourists. It's a spring-fed river, so it's protected and it's very delicate. But people will be in their motorboats just vroom, just trucking right by, and they'll run you over. And they're running over animals, turtles. They're destroying all the vegetation, and I would get so infuriated. Just that
Mm.
that that white hot rage would start burning inside of me, and the water would constantly remind me, pay attention to your emotional state. Why did you let that 30-second interaction with somebody whom you don't know and you're never going to see again? Why did you let them change your entire emotional state? Don't you have a little bit more flexibility and resilience than that? And this is what the river would always tell me is, yeah, you've got to be flexible, adaptable, and you've got to be independent of all the other things. You have to make choices.
Mm.
And so that's what I practice. How about you? What are you learning from getting out in the water?
It's what I told you that you need to be consistent. You need to keep
Consistent.
going to the same place because the
Hmm.
environment will change. I might not see any fish at a place one time that I go there, and maybe the next time I will see the biggest tuna I've ever seen. You
Yeah.
never know what will happen. You need to be consistent, be there, and luck will happen.
Yes. Do you go out in a boat or do you go straight from the shore?
Most of the time, straight from the shore.
Wow. How deep can you swim?
I think my deepest dive was 40 meters.
40 meters.
When I'm free diving, no more than 20 because it's not safe.
Yeah.
to stay there. Yeah.
Did you go down with a support line then when you did 40?
In freediving, yes, with the line, with the
Uh-huh.
buoy, with the line.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then when you're spearfishing, you stay around 20 meters?
Yeah, I go, by fence and come up by fence, so you have to carry all your weights, your spear gun.
Yeah.
If you get any prey, your prey as well.
How much weight do you carry on you to stay
Uh,
down?
it depends on the season and on the depth that I plan to go. So uh, there's, in Greece in winter, it's very cold and we tend to go shallow. So up to 5 meters. So you need a lot of weights because you have an 8 millimeter shoot and you need
Mm,
maybe 12 or 14 kilos on you to stay down and be negative at 5 meters.
right.
And in August, when it's pretty warm and I have a very light wetsuit, maybe 3 kilos are enough to stay at 15.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you always swim with a wetsuit on?
Yeah, always. It's never hot enough in Greece to go without a wetsuit. And
Uh,
I think it's good to, to have some protection for your skin because after a lot of hours in the water, your skin becomes a bit easier to scratch
yeah.
and you can scratch yourself pretty bad actually in a rock. I have a very bad scar from a rock some years ago when I was without a suit.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Do you go underneath rocks and in caves? So if you got it on your back, then you were swimming underneath a rock.
I think at that point I just bumped into a rock.
Mm,
I try to not go underneath and in caves for safety because
yes.
you might get stuck somewhere.
Hmm.
And I think that the easiest way to enjoy is maybe to hide behind a rock and see what comes by.
Yeah. What are some of the most memorable things that you've seen in the water?
I have seen a lot of turtles, which
Hmm.
is very fun every time. I had seen a sea whale, no,
Uh-huh.
not a whale, a seal,
A seal.
a seal. This
Yeah.
was pretty scary because they are very big, actually.
And they got claws and
Mm.
fangs too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they are
Yeah.
big. Yeah, so that was nice. And we have a kind of eel with very mean look and big teeth. We have a lot of those. So the first time that I seen that, I was totally spooked and I couldn't dive no more because I was afraid and my breath hold was ruined.
Yeah.
But now I've learned that if you don't touch them and not, and get very close, they are not harmful. So it's fun always to see them because they're a bit scary. But again, you can go close, take maybe a small photo or a video. It's fun to see that.
Yeah.
It's like National Geographic. You're in nature. You're seeing things that you wouldn't normally see without doing this.
That's right. And it's so different. Just like we were talking about earlier, you and I talking over the internet is one thing. You can see the National Geographic stuff on your phone or on the screen, and it's like, wow, that's incredible. David Attenborough narrating perfectly and all the colors. But when you get in there and you're eye to eye with these animals and you're in their environment, seeing how they interact, it's a completely different
Yeah.
experience.
Once I was inside a school of sardines and it
Oh,
was huge. They were very close. And in my eyes at that point, it looked like I have a wall, a 3D wall, because they had these colors that are constantly changing with light. So it was totally confusing. I couldn't tell if they were super close or super far because they were playing around with the light. And it was like having a huge wall of this color. It was magical. You don't get to do that if you
it's
don't
magical.
train actually and if you
Yes,
don't go there often enough because it doesn't happen every
that's
time.
right.
It just happened once.
That's right. Yeah, that's the consistency piece right there is every time you have to be committed to. Did you ever see the documentary? I guess it would be called a documentary. It was a indie film called My Octopus Teacher, the free
Yeah,
diver.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he made a commitment. He said, I'm going to go every single day. I'm going to be there and let's see what happens. And wow, when you make a commitment to yourself like that, and it doesn't matter if it's cold, it doesn't matter if it's stormy, conditions, no excuses. You get out there. Some incredible things like that happen. And yeah, that can be a once in a lifetime deal. And you just happen to be at the right place at the right time. And then the gates of heaven open up and you get this incredible magical experience. But if you don't get out there and start doing it, you miss it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow. Stefanos, I am so happy that we connected today. I always want in these conversations, I like to talk about theory. I like to talk about the concepts, but I really like to show how this can work. And it was really interesting that we started off today with talking about how to make connections. And one of the big ways is to build a skill that you really enjoy, find it and get out there and do it. And then you'll meet somebody who does the same thing and you can connect over that. And then here we did it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I want to stay in touch with you because I think I told you when we met the first time that I've always wanted to go to Greece specifically for to see the water, and now yeah, we have this shared connection. So maybe if I ever come out that way, which I'll set that as a goal, that's one of my top 3 places I want to go to in the next few years. We can go diving together, and that would be incredibly lovely.
That will be very fun. Sure.
Yes, and then this won't just be talk about how we
Mhm.
make connections. Then we can really show people like, hey, this is how you get
It
out and make
happens.
connections.
Yeah.
Well, before we pause this recording for today, tell me, is there anything that you would want to leave listeners with, a final message?
Yeah. I have a quote from my teacher, Tal Ben Sahar. He's he's teaching positive psychology and happiness. And one of his quotes is that happiness is the ultimate currency in our lives. It's the only thing that matters. So if it doesn't make you happy, then why are you doing this? We should keep this in mind.
Yeah. I went on this bike trip. 8 months I crossed the United States and I had gotten this shirt, like a bike shirt that was at like a secondhand thrift shop. And the quote on it was, if it's not fun, then why do it? But there were so many things that weren't fun. Like, for instance, learning how to equalize, coming out with nosebleeds all the time. That wasn't fun, but it leads to something that's fun. So the thing that's really blissful and is that flow state, but getting there can be challenging sometimes.
Mm. We know that having fun all the time is not always helpful,
Yeah.
and we've seen that with a lot of singers or actors
Yeah.
or famous people who are trying to chase fun all the time, and this leads down to very dark paths
Right.
with substance abuse, with
Yeah.
depression, with suicides. So the idea is not to have fun all the time, but to do things that are elevating your spirit in some way
Precisely.
and challenging yourself. It might not seem fun when you do it, but it will leave you with a sense of accomplishment of, yeah,
Yes.
I did that. And this is the real fun, having
That's
that
right.
sense.
Yes. And sometimes the best ones are the ones that really stress you in a good, positive way. Again, life is full of stress, hardship, and difficulties. We have to choose which ones we're going to put ourselves in. When we can do that, we can really navigate life and participate in it. Learning how to dive. It's not always the most enjoyable thing. It can be very difficult. And once you get past those thresholds, so much opens up and it's
Mm.
very much worth it. Stefanos, tell people who are listening, where can people find you and your work at? If they want to join one of your groups or they want to seek you out for support, where can we find you?
Mhm. The best place is my website. It's mindfullife.coach. mindfullife.coach. I have all the info about the men's groups, about the work that I do, and I have a free guide for people to get there, a small PDF with 5 ways to feel happier today without having to give up your job and start from scratch. So there are 5 mini tools in there with things you can try and see actual results in your mood within a couple of days. So feel free to get that.
Fantastic. I will have that linked in the show notes. Stefanos, this has been incredible. I'm so glad that we got to connect and meet. And like I said, I want to stay in touch. Thank you for your time. Thank you for meeting here. Thanks for reaching out. I'm really glad we got to do this.
Thank you very much, Jan. Have a nice afternoon.